Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my series of training videos for PKR.com. I'm James Sudworth, and today I'm going to be showing you just the techniques that we use when you try to use the tag style of playing, which means tight aggressive. I hit on this in the first video a little bit, but today I just want to expand on that slightly and show why it can be such a profitable way to play, and also a low variance way to play as well. Some of the best players in the world play a loose aggressive format, and there are a number of people on PKR who also do, and do it very successfully. But if you're maybe not overly confident, or you don't quite have the bankroll to do such a technique, then a tight aggressive format works equally, if not better, for people who aren't quite as confident or in their skills. So tight aggressive obviously means that you're playing a very a narrower range of hands pre-flop, and you're playing them aggressively. Everyone kind of knows that. But you also need to know when to slow play the hands as well. You don't always have to be aggressive when you have a hand, and there are certain spots, just like this on table 4 now, on the bottom right hand of the screen, where you just don't need to play aggressively. I 3-bet pre-flop, which is very, very standard in this position, and I like to 3-bet to 3 times the original raise when I'm in position, or 3.5 times the raise when I'm out of position. Here we seem to have flopped a dream flop, and the reason we're not going to play this aggressively in this spot is that Hiolo here has cold called my 3-bet, so we can kind of put him on a pocket pair range of hands, or an ace queen, ace X sort of hand if he's quite fishy. I don't really know him. War Jonas has just called, so we can put him on a set mining sort of hand, or like 8-9 suited, something like that. The reason we're not going to raise the flop is because our hand will turn so face up that we just can't get value from weaker hands. I'm just going to pause this for a moment. If we raise the flop there, the only sort of hands that we can expect to see action from are going to be flush draws, obviously, or perhaps Jack Queen. But every other hand we're pushing off, so all 10s we're pushing off. Any sort of 9s or jacks or queens that just doesn't want to let go has to if we start raising the flop against a lead. So when War Jonas leads out here, there's not really a reason to push him or the other guy off the hand. If we smooth call, our range is a lot more balanced and wider than if we raise his original bet, which is what we need. We want to get action. We've got the top set. If I had something like 4s here, or 10s, or maybe even as little as like aces, or ace king, I would rather raise and try and get it in here, just because you don't really want to see scare cards. When you have a top set here of kings, you don't really mind a spade coming, because you've got the backdoor redraws, and you're also dominating all lower sets and 2-pair hands. So that's why we like to call. On the turn, obviously it's not a great card for us, but it's still not bad. We've got the backdoor flush draw with the king of spades, and also the redraws to the full house, which, because I run like a blue pro run good, we hit. On the top right corner, you can see here now we have aces, and it's fairly standard when you're playing a tight aggressive game to 4-bet aces to try and stack pre-flop. That's very, very standard. You could flat call as well and trap him, but I prefer just raising. People at this stake will always try and get it in with jacks plus or ace queen plus, so you may as well play tight aggressive. Now here on the river, with the king's hand in the bottom right hand side, we have a decision. If we flat call here, the only reason for doing so would be if we think this third player might have a flush or a 10, which he wants to try and re-raise all in to get value from, which could then force War Jonas to call with a lower hand. That's really quite far-fetched, and I don't think it's going to work enough of the time to warrant just a call, a trapping call in position here. Because Hiolo is going to fold 90% of hands, and you're just going to be flat calling with the near nuts and losing some money. So here I just elect to get it all in. I think I can raise to maybe 23 or 24 here, but it has exactly the same effect as going all in. It's only an extra $12 for War Jonas to call into a $73 pot. So I think if he's going to be calling, he's going to call your jam. So you may as well try and get an extra $12 out of it. On table 2 with these aces, it's a pretty standard tight aggressive c-bet that flop. and hope to get a stack in. And on table 4, War Jonas decides to fold eventually, which, you know, it's bad for us, but I think we took exactly the right line throughout the hand. I think if we raised the flop, he could easily just fold off something like jacks or something like that. And on table 2 we get quite lucky and get it in against the kings there, which is a bit of a standard caller. We should have got it in pre-flop there, but still nice to be a rigged blue pro. So some of the things I want to touch on really are why we raise when we're playing a tight aggressive style, and this is because you get 2 chances to win. If you play very passively, you only have 1 chance to win. That's by hitting your hand and getting value from it. By playing aggressively, you have 2 chances. You can take the hand down then and there without seeing a flop or a turn or a river or whatever next street you're going to be seeing, and you also get the chance to hit your hand as well. And obviously, if you want to hit your hand, that's the best way to actually get paid, and you don't need to turn your hand into a bluff. So this is similar. On table 3 now, we've got ace queen, and a lot of players versus an undergun raise would just flat ace queen, try and hit their ace or queen to get maximum value from their opponents. This is a little bit weak, and basically what you're doing by doing that is allowing weaker hands to catch up. So if you flop an ace or a queen, you're not really going to be going anywhere because you've got such a strong hand. But if your opponent who's out of position is going to be playing aggressively against you, the likelihood is they're going to have a better hand. So if the flop comes queen 10-3, you know, they could have set of 10, set of 3s that they've caught up with. They could have queen 10. They've got a much wider range of hands, and you can't really put them on a hand. You need to be able to put your opponent on a hand before betting. Otherwise, you're just throwing money into the pot. You should only be betting when you can accomplish something. So you're either betting to get them to fold as a bluff, or betting to get them to call. So you have to assign your opponent's play ranges whenever you're going to be playing in a hand. Just by playing your cards face up with their own hand value, you really just have to run well in order to make money. You can't make money from when you don't run well and just push people off hands. Here on the top right screen we have got 8-9 suited, and we 3-bet this. He raised the small blind and we 3-bet in the big blind. The reason for not just flat calling here is that we can we take aggression, we take the aggressive line. Therefore most flops, 1 in 3 flops, he's going to miss with just a standard hand like king queen or anything. And so 2 times out of 3 we can usually bet them off the flop with a C-bet. And this again, it relates back to that whole thing about 2 chances of winning. I don't have to hit the flop, I can just bet and get him to fold. Whereas if I just flat call pre-flop and he C-bet the flop and I miss, it's very hard for me to continue. Therefore he has the aggressive advantage and he has 2 chances to win. Here on the bottom right table we isolated out of position with queen king, and I like to do this a lot bigger. So if there's a limper, I like to isolate to 2.5 times their limp. Whereas if I'm in position, I just raise it to 2 times. And part of this is just to defend yourself. You're raising so that they can't just limp call with something like jack 3 or some other fishy little hand. Here we hit a nice flop anyway with our queen king, and we go for 2 streets of value. And obviously the river card is a brick. It doesn't really help any of his hands, and there's no reason for me to just check here, as I don't think he's going to be bluffing enough to warrant a check. So I just go for 3 streets of value. On table 3, I've had ace-5 and I raised pre-flop, and a lot of players on this flop when they're playing 3-handed would just check it back and hope to trip up on the turn or hit 2-pair. I don't like this so much in this position. You're in position. And when you bet, your hand looks so strong, and the other 2 players are only going to be continuing by raising with a better hand or calling with a medium hand, so something like maybe 9 jack or 10 jack or the flush draws. So you get a really good range to be able to put your opponents on. You know that they're going to have a certain type of hand. So you can play the turn and river aggressively, say if no hearts come or the straight draws don't come in. Also, if a lot of cards can hit your range on the turn as well, so say a jack comes or a king comes, you can represent a wide range of hands like turn straights and things like that, and you've got position to bluff the other players off the pot. They would have check-raised the flop here if they had a very strong hand like 9-10 or 10s or 9s or 5s because of the scary draw-heavy board. Therefore, you know that they don't have a really strong hand. And if they do call you down with just a top pair, then fair enough. But I think a lot of the time you're going to get some fold equity from the turn or the river. As we see here, it didn't work out, and Mudbone cold 4-bet all in with 9-4 for his whole stack. And I'll make a note of this later on in the session, just so I know not to bluff him in stupid spots. Here is a new hand, and we've got 2 tables with action on now. Ace Deuce on table 4, where we isolated pre-flop against the small blind limper, and we're just going to c-bet and take it down with bottom pair here, which really shows why it's important to be the aggressor, because you can always take it down whether you've got the best hand or not. A c-bet's going to take it down a huge percentage of the time, like it is now. Now on table 1, we've got 9s. Most people are flat here to try and set mine, but playing a tight aggressively, which is going to 3-bet, as Bazon is usually going to be isolating Kershaw himself. Therefore we're re-isolating Bazon because he has a weaker range due to the fact that he's isolating someone else, so his range is weak. And this is going to work for us this time. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes we'll have to c-bet the flop as well. But either way, taking this aggressive line is the best route.